All right, welcome to the walk-off. If you're tuning in on YouTube, you might notice no video today. If you're tuning in on iTunes, Spotify, or any other audio form, no change for you. That's not true. Scott is not with me today. It is just myself, and I am struggling. This is Adam Mack, host of the walk-off. Scott Belford is in Pittsburgh right now. Getting ready for that Blue Jays series. So best of luck to the Blue Jays down there at PNC Park. All right. We don't need to waste time dwelling on technical difficulties. The point is, things are not going well here at the studio. We missed mailbag this week. We missed long toss on Sunday. Woke up this morning hoping to get a good show out. We had Hey Commie. You know him as Joel, ready to sit down and fill in for Scott, and then more technical difficulties were waiting for me. So here we are, solo mode, no video, just audio. I feel like we are performing about as well as this Blue Jays team, so that is fitting. All right, it is September 2nd today. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be what I'm going to call the playoff push primer. How's that for peas for you? Blue Jays have 33 games left this season, taking us all the way to October 5th, and we're going to get into it. We're going to make some sense of the wild card race. We're going to simplify things, hopefully, for you. There's a lot to keep track of here. Blue Jays. We got the Orioles, we got the Mariners, we got the Tampa Bay Rays, we've got Cleveland, we've got the Minnesota Twins, we even got the White Sox and the Red Sox hanging around. So it's a lot to keep track of here over the last month, but I think we can strip this down and keep our focus on just a couple of these teams and erase the rest from the scoreboard watching. That is so prevalent this time of year as we are in the September playoff push at this point. Okay, so first things first, let's have a look at this wild card standings. We got the Tampa Bay Rays in that first wild card spot, the Seattle Mariners in that second wild card spot, and the Toronto Blue Jays are 2 games back of both of those teams, but currently holding on to that third wild card spot. On the outside looking in, we've got the Baltimore Orioles, and spoiler alert, the Orioles are the team to watch if you're a Blue Jays fan. Minnesota Twins, going to be dueling it out with the Cleveland Guardians for that AL Central division, and I think that's the only way either of those teams gets into the playoffs. I don't see them making a threat at the wild card at this point. Although, as we did talk about a few weeks ago, they definitely have a pretty soft schedule. So we'll see. We'll see. Tampa Bay and Seattle both sitting ahead of the Blue Jays. I really think, sad to say, the Blue Jays are at a point in the year where we shouldn't be concerning ourselves with home field advantage in that first round of the wild card. We got to just get there. We just got to make the playoffs at this point. It's a shifting goalpost, and the targets are changed. I don't think anybody would have been happy with a third wild card spot when we were talking about this team in March and April. But it is what it is. And as the Atlanta Braves proved last year, all you need is that ticket to the dance, and anything can happen. So I don't think as a Blue Jays fan, whether you're a casual or a diehard, somewhere in between, I don't think we really need to be keeping an eye on the Seattle Mariners or the Tampa Bay Rays at this point in the season. Now, things may change as we approach that second, third, and final week of September. If we're taking care of business, maybe we do reposition ourselves. Maybe we go on a bit of a run where we are in that first wild card spot and we're holding on for dear life. But I really think Blue Jays and Orioles for that third and final wild card spot, that's where we're looking. Red Sox, not technically out, not mathematically out. Same goes for the White Sox. But at this point, it's too late to make a trade. I don't see what either of these teams can really do to make a legitimate threat. Not impossible, though. But let's look at Baltimore. Let's look at these Blue Jays. Let's hold off the Baltimore Orioles. And if this is the case, I mean, we're going to look at the schedule here in a bit. But we do play the Orioles a handful of games the rest of the way. So we do have some really meaningful baseball in September to be played, which is always welcome. Regardless of how the playoffs go, it is just nice to be watching meaningful baseball this time of year. So the Blue Jays, 33 games left. If we look at last year and how that playoff race went down, the Blue Jays had a very hot September, and we finished the year with 91 wins. I think we all remember how last September went. I could pull a number out of my hat. I could have done some more prep this morning, but I didn't. I don't know how many wins we got in September. It felt like all of them. A 25 out of 30 type of a September. And we missed the playoffs by one game. We finished with 91 wins, and we missed the playoffs by one game. Now, this year versus last year, they have expanded the playoffs, so another team is going to get in. That's something to consider. But as it stands right now, with 33 games left and a winning percentage of .543, the math checks out, and we're on pace for 88 wins. A regression from last year. Undeniably a regression. Disappointing. 88 wins might be enough to make the playoffs this year with that expanded playoff field. I don't know how you feel. 88 wins feels like a disappointing season to me. And I have some more stats that make things a little gloomier from there. Blue Jays, like most wild card level teams, have a losing record against teams over 500. There are not too many teams over 500. The Blue Jays have a winning record. The Blue Jays record, let's try that again. The Blue Jays record versus teams with a winning percentage over 500, the quote-unquote good teams, we only win with a winning percentage of .422 against those teams. We make our hay against the bad teams, as most teams in baseball do. We have a winning percentage of .690 against teams with a winning record under 500. So looking ahead at this September and first week of October schedule, 9 games left versus those bad teams under 500. And we have 24 games left against the good teams with a winning percentage over 500. So, we do some math magic. How do these numbers play out? Well, with teams, in those 9 games versus the bad teams, the math says we should win 6 of those games. And of the 24 versus teams with a winning record, we should win 10 of those games. Pretty simple math here, but that's 16 wins out of 33 remaining. That's a record of 16-17 over this final playoff push. Not very good. Not what we want to see. That is not going to get it done in the playoffs anyways, and that gets us to a record of 86-76. So below the record that our win percentage currently puts us on pace for. Do I think this team goes 500 in September and October? Well, let's look at how they did in August, because August was a pretty similar schedule. August, we had 9 games versus the bad teams. We played Boston, LA Angels, and the Chicago Cubs at the end of August. And we went 5-4 in those 9 games. the rest of the way, the rest of August, we went 13-14. Slightly below 500. These numbers, I think, will carry over through September unless something dynamic changes. Rosters expanded yesterday. Blue Jays officially added Bradley Zimmer and Casey Lawrence to this team. I don't think Casey Lawrence is a full-time September call-up, but we do have a doubleheader on Monday against the Orioles. So I think Casey Lawrence, the plan is for him to pitch game 2 of that doubleheader in Baltimore. We got 3 against Pittsburgh. We need to win these 3 this weekend because it gets tight if we're looking at beyond this series and the rest of the way. We got 3 against the Texas Rangers. We got 3 against the Red Sox towards the end of the season. But the rest of the way, it is Baltimore. It is Tampa Bay. It is the New York Yankees. That's basically the rest of our schedule. Anybody else here listening remember the last time Baltimore came to town? Because I do. Mid-August, we had 6 games against Baltimore. We lost 4 of them. 1 got rained out, which we're playing on Monday. And we won the last and final game before carrying some momentum into New York. This Baltimore team has been hot. They've been hot since, well, the entire second half of the season for sure. I'm looking at the schedule here. They just took 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. That's a playoff team. They took 2 out of 3 versus the Astros, which may be the best team in the AL right now. The Orioles took 2 out of 3 versus the White Sox, 2 out of 3 versus the Red Sox. They had a weird 1-game series, like a makeup day against the Chicago Cubs, and they lost that. But beyond that, they took 2 out of 3 versus us. They did lose 2 out of 3 versus Tampa, but they also took 2 out of 3 versus us. So this is an Orioles team that just continues to win 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. And against good teams. Baltimore is for real. I thought in July that this team was maybe overachieving a little bit. I think they still are. But for whatever reason, it is for real. And I don't expect them to fade on this back end of this playoff stretch. While we are taking on the Pirates, Baltimore's taking on Oakland. 3 in Oakland. I expect Baltimore to win for sure 2 of those 3 games. So we need to win 2 out of 3 versus the Pirates at the same time. Because then we go to Baltimore for a 4-game series, including that doubleheader on Monday. And that series starting on Monday is going to be ripe with playoff implications. Blue Jays Orioles play 4 games in Baltimore. A week later, 3 games in Toronto. And then at the very end of the season, 3 more in Baltimore. Those are all playoff games. You know it. I know it. We can't understate this enough. Or we can't overstate this enough. I don't know. These games need to be won. We want to talk magic number. Let's talk magic number for a little bit. Magic number is a number that if you're been around sports for a while, you're probably familiar with the term. You've heard it before. Magic number you're going to hear in the last half of September as this playoff field thins itself out and the numbers get a little bit easier to make sense of. But basically, the magic number, for anybody not familiar, is the number of, well, let's just say in the Blue Jays case, the number of wins combined with opponents' losses that we need to get to in order to make the playoffs. In some examples, it means or to win the division or for home field advantage. Could be for any particular case that you're worried about. But in our instance, we're going to just look at making the playoffs. So the way the magic number is calculated is total number of games in a regular season, and this is across all of sports, plus 1. So for baseball, everybody starts the season with a magic number of 163, and then it's basically your team's wins plus the opponent that you're directly competing with for that last playoff spot, their losses. So both of those two numbers subtracted from 163. Sorry, brain fart here. It's amazing how much easier this is to do with Scott, where we can go back and forth. Blue Jays have a win total of 70. Orioles have a loss total of 61. Subtract both of those from 163 means the Blue Jays, quote-unquote, magic number to make the playoffs this year is sitting at 32. So over the course of the last 33 games here for the Toronto Blue Jays, we need a combination of 32 wins and losses from this Blue Jays and Orioles team. So if we're getting to 16 wins, let's just say that's the safe number, 16 and 17, then we need the Orioles to lose 16 games. If the Orioles lose 16 and we win 16, we make the playoffs. Barring some other complications from the Minnesota Twins, okay? There is a world in which the Twins can still make it as a wild card team, but I think they are competing with the Guardians, as I said. So let's just pretend that that's a decided factor. Baltimore's schedule, can I find 16 losses in it? Can I find 16 losses in this Baltimore schedule? I see 3 versus Oakland. I'm going to say no losses there. 4 against Toronto. Well, let's put the series against Toronto on hold. Let's see if we can find losses outside of the Toronto series. So I see 3 games versus Boston. I don't think they lose any of those. I see 2 versus Washington. Probably not either of those either. So far we've got Oakland, Boston, Washington. Those are all winnable games. Then Toronto again. Detroit, all winnable games. Then we got Houston for 4. Boston for 4. And the Yankees for 3. The Astros being the best team in the AL, I mean, that could be a 4-game sweep for the Astros. More likely, it's a 3-1 series victory for the Astros, who for them are hoping to be hot at the end of September. So maybe there's 3 losses there. Maybe we do the same thing in New York. New York wins the series, but not a sweep. There's another 2 losses. So that gets us to 5. Maybe they split with Boston, 2-2. That gets us to 7. Washington, I don't think they lose any there. Maybe they lose 1 to Boston after playing us. That's 8. This is not looking good when we look at this schedule. I'm really talking myself out of playoff baseball in October for these Toronto Blue Jays. Doom and gloom is the theme of this show right now. Let's have a quick look at this Pittsburgh Pirates series. But before we just have a look at that, I think that's where we leave things for this playoff push primer. Toronto Blue Jays, magic number 32. Biggest team we need to be keeping our eye on, Baltimore Orioles. So every chance you get, you're rooting against the Baltimore Orioles. They do have, like the Orioles have games against New York. I don't think we're cheering for the Orioles to beat New York. I don't think we're in a situation to catch New York. They don't have any games against the Rays left, which is too bad. Yeah, Houston maybe can help us out. Detroit is lifeless. Washington is lifeless. The Athletics are lifeless. Oh, best thing Toronto can do, really. We've got there 4-game series, 3-game series, 3-game series. We have 10 games left against those Baltimore Orioles. If we can win, oof. I don't think 5-5 against the Orioles gets us to the playoffs. There, I said it. They have a softer schedule than we do. They've been playing better than we have. We're only a game and a half up as it stands right now. If we go 5-5 against the Orioles the rest of the way, I don't think we make the playoffs. I don't think 6-4 for the Blue Jays gets us to the playoffs. I think 7-3 or 8-2 against the Orioles is where we need to be, which is tough considering we went 1-4 in our last 5 games against them. So Blue Jays Orioles, 3 massive series. We're going to get to know each other really well. Kudos to the schedule makers, whoever saw this coming. 3-game series between Baltimore and Toronto. Maybe book those days off work if you work night shift. 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the start of October there. Those are going to be playoff baseball games. Let's just call it what it is. Winner, I would say it's probably going to be a situation, those last 3 games of the year, where winner makes the playoffs, loser goes home. So, all right, let's have a quick peek at the Blue Jays versus Pirates series. Tonight we got Alek Manoah taking the mound. Alek Manoah has not been the Cy Young candidate that he was in the first half. But it is the Pittsburgh Pirates. We've got to win this series. Would 3 games in this series ever feel good? Especially if Oakland can help us out and even take 1 away from those Baltimore Orioles. There is a real chance that by the time we go to Baltimore next week, on Monday, that maybe we're like a game behind them. Ugh, how gross is that? Oh, all right. I don't really have anything else I want to add today. I'm sure if Scott was here, he would have better, more thorough notes. But he is not, as he is in Pittsburgh for that series. Apologies again for anybody watching on YouTube who didn't get to see my pretty face, my beard, my mullet. I know that's the best part of your day. Sorry that technical difficulties and personal reasons have gotten in the way of the show over the last week or two. We appreciate everybody's patience and support. We are working on it. I know today is a shorter episode. We're clocking it at around 23 minutes right now. But I did want to get something out there. Hopefully we have things solved for Sunday night. We can get a good long toss in. But if not, then I guess hopefully again for mailbag on Tuesday. I got to take my computer into the shop and see if I can get it serviced or something, or do a hard reboot or whatever. Anyways, appreciate the patience. Just wanted to get something out to you. And again, I'll just give a quick shout out to the Patreon supporters at patreon.com/thewalkoffpodcast. So David, Abraham, Michael, Sarah, John, Simon, Rashid, Joshua, Jeremy, Ian, Dunedin Bob, John, Wyatt, and Patrick. We do have that promo going for the Jose Barrios jersey that we are going to give away to one of our Patreon. We have, I think, 5 of you have sent a message and entered that entry there. So if you are supporting us on Patreon, just shoot us a message. Let us know why you want the Jose Barrios jersey, and you're entered to win that. We were supposed to do that draw on Tuesday, but obviously the mailbag didn't happen. And now today is also kind of a gong show. So we will try again next week, but we appreciate everybody's contributions. We have received a few more substantial contributions to our new computer fund. So I think the new total, we are about 95% of the way there. So massive thank you. It is humbling and kind of overwhelming, the support we have had from everybody. Big donors, little donors, We appreciate everybody contributing. And it turns out the timing couldn't be better because, if this current computer situation can't be fixed, then it's a good thing we're able to go out and buy the new upgrade very shortly. So thanks again to everybody for supporting us. You can message us on Twitter, Instagram. If you didn't catch our gambling shows, Adam and Scott Suck at Gambling on Wednesday, we did announce Toronto Blue Jays former, I guess 2 times former manager John Gibbons has agreed to come on the show. So we're going to be chatting with John Gibbons here probably next week. So if you have questions for John Gibbons, get them in the Discord. Discord is free to join. Link to that is in the show notes. Go Blue Jays down in Pittsburgh, and we'll catch you guys later. Cheers.